The silver cutlery clicked against porcelain, the only sound in the private dining room. Mark sat across from the CEO, his posture relaxed, his gaze steady. The lunch was supposed to be a strategy meeting, but the charts on the table lay forgotten. Mark leaned in, lowering his voice just enough to make the room feel smaller, more exclusive. He pushed a piece of paper across the linen cloth, not a document, but a list of names. He did not say anything accusatory, he merely observed. He noted how the junior staff spent their afternoons huddled in the break room, their laughter stopping whenever the CEO walked by. He watched the CEO's jaw tighten. Mark reached for the water pitcher, pouring slowly, letting the silence stretch until the CEO felt compelled to fill it. "Are they hiding something?" the CEO asked. Mark offered a non-committal shrug, his expression one of pained concern. He planted the seed, watered it with feigned loyalty, and watched the doubt take root in the CEO's eyes. The trap was set. Mark took a slow sip, his face a mask of quiet, unwavering support. Rachel stared at the monitor, the progress bar frozen at 90% for the third consecutive day. She clicked the refresh icon, then tapped the glass of her cubicle wall. The approval request for the final data migration remained trapped in the queue, sitting on a desk that no longer belonged to a manager she trusted. Beside her, 3 other junior researchers packed their notes, their faces drained of energy. A new face, one of Mark's associates, walked by and dropped a stack of meaningless paperwork onto Rachel's desk, demanding a priority audit. Rachel stood up, her movement sharp, and caught the man's eye. "This isn't the current project," she said, but he simply turned his back and walked toward the break room. From behind the frosted glass of the corner office, the CEO watched the floor. He saw the movement, the tension, and the frustration, but he saw it through the lens Mark had polished for him. To the CEO, the friction was not evidence of broken processes, but proof of the resistance Mark had warned him about. He turned away, convinced the staff was intentionally stalling to sabotage his vision. Rachel sat back down, the silence of the office growing heavy as the last of the competent leads walked out the door for the final time. The quarterly report hit the desk with a dull thud. The CEO stared at the red lines, the graph plunging downward like a plummeting stone. His breathing grew shallow. He shoved the paper aside, but the numbers remained burned into his vision. The office phone buzzed, a sharp, jarring vibration against the mahogany. It was the board. They wanted blood. They wanted a scapegoat for the missing revenue, and they wanted it by the end of the day. The CEO paced the length of the window, his hand gripping the back of his chair until his knuckles turned white. He looked at the door, then back at the empty, silent floor outside. Mark stepped into the room, his presence measured and calm. He carried a thick folder in his right hand, the edges crisp and heavy. He did not rush. He walked to the center of the desk and laid the file down, sliding it toward the CEO. "The board needs a reason for the failure," Mark said, his voice level and devoid of urgency. "These are the names of those responsible for the broken workflows." The CEO opened the folder. His eyes scanned the first page, then the second. He looked up at Mark, his face pale, searching for a way out. Mark simply waited, his expression a calm, practiced mask of reliability. The CEO's hand trembled as he grabbed a pen. He did not ask for evidence. He did not call for a meeting. He simply signed each page with a violent, jagged stroke that tore slightly through the paper. Outside, the news spread not by email, but by the sound of security guards walking the floor. Rachel stood up from her cubicle, clutching a printed project summary, and moved toward the corner office. She reached the door just as it swung open. The CEO did not look at her. He looked past her, his eyes fixed on the empty space beyond. "Get him out," he barked, his voice cracking with a mix of fear and manufactured authority. Rachel started to speak, holding out the report to prove the work was done, but the CEO slammed the door shut, the lock clicking with finality. The sound echoed through the entire floor. Security guards moved in behind her, signaling the end. Rachel dropped the report into the recycling bin, her shoulders slumping. She turned back to her desk and grabbed a cardboard box. One by one, the junior researchers began to clear their belongings. The cubicles were stripped of personal items, leaving only bare metal and gray fabric behind. The office felt suddenly cavernous, the silence punctuated only by the sharp scrape of empty boxes sliding across the floor. Mark stood by the window, his reflection ghostly against the darkening glass. He watched as the junior staff exited the lobby, their cardboard boxes held like shields against the rain. They walked out of his life and out of the company, leaving behind an expanse of empty, gray cubicles. He did not blink. He did not feel the weight of the ruin he had engineered. Behind him, the office lights flickered, buzzing with a dying rhythm that stuttered in the silence. The CEO turned his chair, his posture defeated, his gaze searching for an anchor in the wreckage. He looked at Mark with a hollow, desperate expression, waiting for a direction that would never come. "What happens now?" the CEO asked, his voice barely audible over the hum of the failing ventilation. Mark did not move. He kept his eyes on the street below, watching the last car pull away from the curb. He leaned in closer, his voice a low, smooth vibration in the empty room. "Now, we rebuild," Mark whispered. The CEO nodded, relieved, still clinging to the hand that had pushed him off the cliff. He remained unaware that the map he held was drawn in ashes, and the fire that had consumed the building was already burning through the floorboards beneath his feet.